I will go over why the price of Bitcoin is about to experience a major breakout and how you can potentially make money from the breakout that will likely happen in the upcoming week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's going to happen soon, and that's all that matters. So jumping straight into the matter, let's go to the daily time frame for Bitcoin and look at what is happening on the daily time frame. So on the daily, we have one pattern. I'm going to try and be as quick as possible to get through all the reasons on why Bitcoin will likely go to the upside. So reason number one is the Wyckoff reaccumulation scenario. You guys know this if you're a crypto kid and if you've been watching the channel for a long time. You know this pattern probably since February of this year. And this pattern is a very famous pattern. It's called Wyckoff reaccumulation pattern. And if you take a mental image of this chart and then put it onto the price action, you can see how similar it is. I've even highlighted you the different phases of this price action on the Wyckoff, and I've put it directly onto the spot price of Bitcoin so you can understand how similar it is. And I think it is similar enough to say that this is in fact a Wyckoff reaccumulation pattern happening here on the daily time frame for Bitcoin. And it's great because you can see the final point of this pattern is the SOS to LPS region, where you consolidate in the range of prior all-time high and also the all-time high before that. And in this case, we're consolidating exactly between UT phase B and BC, the two prior all-time highs, the one that we just created a few weeks ago at $112,000. So this breakout will take place soon. The confirmation will happen when we go above the SOS line, which is $112,000, but we're in the final stage of this consolidation period or this pattern overall. So very, very good news. The second good news is the consolidation pattern is happening in the form of a bullish pennant. If you guys are amateur analysts, intermediate analysts, professional analysts, you know that this pattern is very, very important. So we're coming into approximately now the 60% line of this bullish pennant slash bull flag. And usually at the 70 to the 75% mark, this pattern tends to go and break to the upside. So I think we will reach that point within this week, next week, or potentially the week after. But as soon as we do, when we break the 109 line and the 112 line, you will confirm these two bullish scenarios and patterns. And that will take you into the next stage of Bitcoin's price action, where you do create brand new all-time highs. And the question is, okay, where would you be going and creating these new all-time highs at? At what price would Bitcoin go? And how would you make money from that? Well, obviously the reasons why I think Bitcoin will explode, they're not over yet. We still have more reasons for you in this video. But before I do so and get into them, I want to show you how I'm positioned to prepare for this breakout that will likely happen very, very soon. Now, over on Weeks, which you can sign up to, going to the description of today's video and using the first link in the description to go ahead and sign up to Weeks, which is where I'm personally trading Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies at the moment. It takes 30 seconds to sign up, and it's incredibly easy to trade on. You can use isolated, separated for your risk management, meaning you can open multiple positions under one singular contract, which is an incredible feature that they have. And much more cool stuff like daily rewards. When you trade on a daily basis, you can spin the wheel to claim incredible rewards. So sign up to Weeks if you're looking to trade. That's where I'm personally trading. And using the link in the description down below, you will support this channel. So going into how I'm positioning myself, well, we've built up long positions together since $77,000. And if you haven't been doing so with us here, that's completely fine, because I think you still have an opportunity to build up long positions. What I just said on the Moon Show was that, yes, we've still not seen the confirmations of these breakouts, which is okay. However, I would be slowly starting to DCA in. So you could open a market order now if you would like to do so, with let's say 10% of your trading portfolio or the amount of money you would like to allocate into Bitcoin, or 15% or 20%, whatever that number is to you, which you think is a good percentage to DCA. If you wish to do so, you can open one DCA order to jump into Bitcoin right now as we approach. I know it's premature, we haven't broken out yet, but that was the approach I took here between 77 and 87.5. We weren't sure of a reversal yet, but I personally took the risk to start DCing in so I can potentially start to come close to the bottom and enter Bitcoin near the bottom, near the swing low on the daily time frame. And this was lucky. You know, it wasn't completely TA that said, okay, 77 exactly is going to be the bottom. No, it was a bit of luck involved. But the rest of these positions, we went into them looking specifically at the global M2 money supply, which is another reason why I think Bitcoin is going to go up very soon. So at this point in price action, if we get rid of this TA right here, we can show you that at this point, when we were opening these positions, the price of Bitcoin was at the 70 region. And obviously, we didn't have the price action that took us to 112. No, we only relied on the M2 money supply for some time until this W formation here on the spot price got confirmed to reverse us into this territory. So the M2 money supply has been a very, very good indicator, showcasing exactly where the price of Bitcoin will likely go with an 85 to 115 or 75 or 70 to 115 day delay. It can change. And this correlation has been very strong since the ETFs, but overall, since Bitcoin's inception, you follow the overall trend of liquidity. That's just how risk on assets work. It's how economy works. It's how the Keynesian economic model works. So in the macro, Bitcoin 90% of the time, and that's a proven statistic, follows liquidity to increase in price action. So at this point, we were looking at the W, and there were other factors like a retest to the inverse head and shoulders on the weekly time frame, if I'm not mistaken. We also had a retest here. So there are a few things that led us to open those positions at 77, but the M2 money supply was a very good one to say, you know what, we're going to open those positions because we expect further price action on the daily time frame. And that's exactly what happened. If you get rid of the replay, you can see that Bitcoin perfectly followed M2 money supply. It's how the world works, okay? That's why we're following it so nicely. We don't have to follow it exactly to the point, but the main idea is to look at the overall trend, and you can see that the overall trend is heading to the upwards direction, and maybe by September or the end of summer, we could even be at $140,000 to $130,000, according just to the M2 money supply. There's a couple of other patterns and indicators that I will show you that point into that price range too. So another reason why I think now is a good time, even though it's premature on this bullish pennant and it's premature on the first pattern that we talked about, I think it is fine to start entering in and positioning ourselves into Bitcoin and DCing in with potentially low leverage. Like I entered these trades with 5x leverage, and then as soon as I got the confirmation that we were breaking out above this W formation, I increased my leverage from 5x to 10x leverage. And I added more margin into some of my trades. So that's what you can do. You can do, let's say, 15% position. And then as soon as you get your confirmation breaking from the bullish pennant and the Wyckoff accumulation, you can add another position or increase your leverage or add margin to your existing position. You can do whatever you want. But I just think DCing in is important. And that's how you will roughly catch a very good entry, given the experience I've had here on this channel with the range we bought Bitcoin between 77 and 87 and a half. So that's the M2 money supply. Then we have another potential pattern that we can look at. And this one is an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So when you look at the daily time frame, you can see that Bitcoin is actually forming an inverse head and shoulders pattern. So if we break out of this downward sloping trend, likely we will come to the 112, test the prior all-time high. We could maybe see a little bit of a resistance, but as soon as we break to the upside, I think that will take Bitcoin into much further heights. And if we calculate the targets on the auto scale, not the logarithmic scale, we can see that the price target of Bitcoin actually lies at the 140K level, which also corresponds to the M2 money supply almost, right? So we can see it comes basically around the M2 money supply, pushing Bitcoin into the 140K-ish direction by September, so Q4 of this year, which would make total sense, by the way, with the Bitcoin halving cycles. So that's another thing that we can look at. The penultimate reason for why I think Bitcoin will go up is, again, on the weekly time frame. Or actually, this is the first time we're looking at the weekly for a potential analysis. But so on the weekly time frame, you can see that we had an inverse head and shoulders, which we traded together here on the channel publicly. You can also make the case that actually, no, the inverse head and shoulders is this one, because this is a beautiful shoulder. That was a beautiful left shoulder that took place between 2020 and 2021. And actually, we can make the argument that the breakout here is going to be the actual, result in Bitcoin's further price appreciation. Obviously, this pattern has a very bullish target going into the 180 to the 190 territories, which Bitcoin very well may do so, maybe in Q1 of 2026 when they cut rates rapidly. But I think 180K is a very good target for a potential top for Bitcoin. So that is something very good to look at as well. Again, further emphasizing why we should potentially be looking into scaling more into long positions. And if you wish to do so, you can use the first link in the description to sign up to Weeks to go ahead and start trading and DCing into Bitcoin so that we can catch a nice entry for the next leg to the upside. And then finally, guys, the final reason for why I think Bitcoin is going to head further to the upside is the parabola pattern. So that's something also that we've been talking about for a very long time here on this channel. But the final move of the parabola is about to take place. A parabola pattern in technical analysis has 4 different bases. So you have, let's have a look. So base 1, which took place at the bottom of the bear market. Then you had base 2, base 3, base 4, and now you're going to have the final move, the final rally to the upside before we see the bear market begin. And that's just pointing into an overall bullish direction for price action rather than giving you an exact target. So that's another very good thing for Bitcoin. So guys, with that said, I think that's all that I wanted to cover. We're not going to go into altcoins in today's video. Bitcoin dominance is actually increasing. So that's why altcoins are not going up, even though Bitcoin is trading higher today. We can talk about altcoins in another future video. Something important that I wanted to bring up is that the amount of buying pressure we've seen from ETFs on the past 11 days has been insane. $3 billion added new just from the ETFs alone. Today, Pompliano bought 1,000 Bitcoin. And you guys know Michael Saylor bought more Bitcoin on Monday. Metaplanet bought 1,000 Bitcoin on Monday. When you look at the fundamental supply and demand dynamics of Bitcoin, the amount of new issued Bitcoin versus the amount of Bitcoin bought on a daily basis, that ratio is already through the roof. Like the new amount of Bitcoin bought trumps the new amount of Bitcoin issued into the circulation by multiple. So, that's another bullish factor when you look into, the on-chain and the economic dynamics of how Bitcoin works. So just looking very, very good overall. I'm very happy that the daily head and shoulders, or not the head and shoulders, but the double top pattern has now been completely invalidated, which is great. Obviously, you can still go to the downside. It's just the probabilities of a potential downside move has been dropped from my analysis drastically. So my outlook is obviously very bullish at this moment in time. And maybe there's one more thing we can mention on the weekly time frame. We have retested with the dump we saw to 98K beautifully to the upward sloping or downward sloping trend line that the consolidation between December to now has created. Right? And you can go back to November and you saw a retest to this trend line prior to moving further to the upside. So now we're seeing this retest also to the bull and bear market support band, if I'm not wrong, which Benjamin Cohen really likes. I mean, we didn't come to it exactly, but I think it's close enough to say that, yeah, the retest happened and now we can continue moving to the upside. Here you can see the full retest didn't actually take place before we moved up. So I don't think you need an exact hit on the bull bear market support band to say, okay, that we have to hit it perfectly to say we can continue moving to the upside. I don't think it's necessary. So that's another very bullish reason for why Bitcoin will likely head to the upside. I would be looking out for the S&P. If the S&P is able to close above prior all-time highs, then you're also getting rid of the risk of the S&P entering into a bearish downtrend, which would, obviously due to the Bitcoin and S&P correlation would be dangerous for Bitcoin. But if the S&P can tomorrow or this week or next week can hit a brand new all-time high, which hopefully it does with this inverse head and shoulders, we can see a further increase in the S&P, and that will also reflect on Bitcoin's price action. But guys, I know this video has been long and there's been so many things that I've talked about. Overall, we're bullish and that's all that matters. And I would be looking into DCing into some long positions if you're not already in some already. But with that said, guys, enjoy your day and I'll see you all on the next video very soon. Take care, guys. And as always, bye-bye.